rolled out into the market. It's no longer your license that tells you what kind of license. You will see, for instance, that the likes of Vodacom and MTN are doing fiber rings around metropolitan areas. You'll see, for instance, there's a company called Dark Fiber Africa that is doing exactly the same thing. And what they're literally doing is they're putting up fiber on the ground, and they're saying, come by, and if you've got any one of those licenses, you are able to bring those services to the market. So this is designed to really try and encourage a much more competitive market, a much more easy market to enter into. Again, if you're a vendor or an ISP, I think the expectation in the past was that you were going to be sitting on the services layer of the market. But thanks to the Altec case, that has changed, and most vendors now are able to have all 3 licenses. So literally what we have now, you've moved from a situation where you had 7 network licensees in the market to a situation where you have about 200 licenses in the market. But I think the reality of it is that there's only a handful of those operators that are actually going to be able to roll out networks. Because you will know that rolling out a network is not something that is very easy to do. You require a lot of capital investment upfront, and really most companies are not going to be able to afford to roll out their own networks. So what you're likely to see at the same time is a market that is going to consolidate. So whereas right now you have 10, 20 people running around saying they've got a network license, most of those people are going to be swallowed up by the bigger guys. So I think going forward, you're likely to see a market that is likely to consolidate. So what are the opportunities that this new market brings? I think the first clear one the government wanted to have is to have a much more competitive telecoms market. Whether that's going to be achieved, I think it's going to depend on a whole lot of things. I think one of them being the ability to give the new entrants spectrum. Because if you look at it, most of the new entrants are never going to be trying to replicate Telkom. And I think I don't even know what will be able to replicate the network that Telkom has. That's a network that has taken time to build. That is a network that you and I as taxpayers have contributed money towards. And most players that are coming in now are coming in purely on a commercial basis with very little government backing. And if you're coming in commercially, you'll know that investors are very uneasy in investing in a market where there are no clear returns. So I think what you're likely to see is that most players that are going to be coming in are going to be focusing a lot more on the wireless space, because that is much more easier to roll out, it is much cheaper, and I think it allows operators to cover a whole range of consumers using a single base station rather than trying to use something like fiber. I think what you also like to see in the market is a converging telecoms market. I think we are already seeing the effects of that in the market. And you've seen, for instance, that MTN has taken over Verizon, and I think there was reference, for instance, to Vodacom taking over Gateway. I think you're going to see a lot more of this converging between your traditional mobile taking over what was traditionally your ISP. I think some companies are going to continue to grow organically. I think as Internet Solutions, we are in that space. Our focus is to grow organically right now. Not that we're not going to look at acquisitions when those acquisitions are suitable and compatible with our business case. If you look at someone like Vodacom, for instance, Vodacom Business is an attempt to grow organically and move into the new area of data market for Vodacom. So I think definitely you're beginning to see a converging market, but I think my sense is that you're not going to see a whole lot of players, but I think you're going to see a few players, hopefully, that are going to compete better, so that you and I can pay less cell phone bill every month. I think I've referred to the last bullet point there, which is the consolidating market. I think already you're beginning to see the effects of that in the market. I think one of the biggest value propositions that convergence brings is that it now enables the emergence of what I call telecom agnostic, network agnostic providers. I think as Internet Solutions, for instance, without really trying to sell Internet Solutions, we see ourselves as an operator that plays directly in this space. I think I've already indicated that government has created an opportunity where, as an operator, we are now able to provide or roll out a network that is desired by your clients rather than what is regulated by your license. So I think the operators that are going to survive going forward are those operators that have positioned themselves in such a way that they can deploy any network service in the market in a way that the clients require or demand that kind of service. I think those operators that are going to box themselves either in a fixed space or in a mobile space or in a traditional ISP space, I think those operators are not going to last long in the market. I think it's those operators that see the value in combining various technologies and being able to bring an end-to-end service to a client using those various technologies. I think those are the operators that are going to survive going forward. So I think as Internet Solutions, we're able to say right now, for instance, if you're a farmer sitting somewhere outside where there's no fiber, where there's no immediately available spectrum will provide a satellite-based service to cover connectivity. If you're sitting in rural areas where you need where it's sparsely populated, we're able to say we'll look into a CDMA option and be able to provide a wireless solution. If you're sitting in New Bright where it's densely populated, you can say we'll look at a WiMAX solution to be able to cover it. So I think going forward, it is critical that operators must position themselves not to be fixed towards particular technology, but to be able to be agnostic towards the technologies so that you get able to provide a network that your clients demand. I think the slide was covered in the Vodacom slide as well, so I'm not going to dwell much on it, but I think really what we're speaking to today is the sense that customers are beginning to say that they demand certain things, and if you're not in a position to demand those things, then you're not going to last in the market. If you're not able to provide a customer with something that they can use to work and take that very same service when they go home, you are in trouble. And if you're not able to provide a customer with a service that they can use at home, and when they get into their car and drive to the next town, then you're in trouble. So I think you're really beginning to see a market where customer is becoming king in the literal sense of the word. And I think those operators that are going to be able to the last man standing, if I can use that phrase, are the operators that are able to see this. I'm going to talk just briefly now on what the future landscape is and where possibly the opportunities are. I think the first one to briefly mention, and I think I've touched on it, is that you are likely to see going forward operators that are going to be bringing in wireless services. I think there's going to be a lot less focus on transmission services that are of a fixed nature, and I think this is a market where telecom is going to continue to dominate. And if you look at a country like the UK, British Telecom, for instance, which is a replica of telecom in the UK, is still a very, very big player in wholesale market. And that is precisely because most players, when they come into the market, they don't want to focus on rolling transmission networks and on all those kinds of things. They want to focus on services that they can take to the masses. And then the wholesale market, therefore, becomes very, very critical. And BT has, I think, in a way, has captured this market in a way that I think going forward, telecom will begin to look at. I think they've focused a lot less in trying to compete with their own customers, and a lot more in trying to provide very, very efficient services to their customers. And I think if you look in South Africa, for instance, ICASA made an announcement about a week ago that will be licensing about 4 players to come in and provide wireless services. I think the spectrum that's in the issue is WiMAX spectrum, and I think the indication is that they're going to be giving 30 megahertz each to each of those operators to be able to roll out a national network. I think one of the interesting requirements that are coming out of that is the fact that there's going to be a minimum requirement of 30% PEE. I think initially it was 51%, but I think due to some forces, the market ICASA has considered a bit, and they've gone down to 30%. So I think that's an opportunity for some black people, as you mentioned, to position themselves to try and see what can be done to try and add value to those companies that are out there looking for spectrum that may not necessarily be empowered up to 30%. It is my view that this is a very exciting area, and I think this is one area that's going to be able to really bring competition to the existing incumbent operators. I think the other aspects that I think they're coming up is what is called carrier pre-selection. Carrier pre-selection really is a tool that has been used in Europe as a competitive tool. Basically, it's a tool that allows you to pick up your phone and using certain voice enhancers on your phone, you are able to basically, even though you may be an MTN subscriber, if you want to make an international call, you are able to press a button on your phone that directs that call to internet solutions, where, for instance, internet solutions is able to provide or give cheaper international calls in the market. So it literally is a technology that allows competitors to use networks of other competitors to be able to provide services in the market. I think, again, it's an attempt by government to try and inject some competition and make sure that the market becomes a lot more dynamic than it is. Again, you'll also remember that in South Africa, up until now, you had what is called mobile number portability, where basically, if you've got a Cell C number and you're unhappy with Cell C services, you are able to take your contract or your prepaid number, move it over to Vodacom without losing that number. That scenario did not exist when it comes to fixed geographic numbers. If, for instance, you're a Standard Bank, you're sitting with 10,000 numbers, and those numbers are sitting with Telkom, and you're unhappy with Telkom, and you've invested 20 or 30 years of proprietary information around those numbers, regardless of